Greetings, Uncle Marv here with another episode of the Unhealthy Podcast, the show where we look at health from a different point of view. We go beyond diet and fitness, and we look at eliminating or reducing all the things that we do that are unhealthy. And we do that not only in our weight loss, our spiritual life, but we do that in our mindset. And today we are going to talk about it in our relationships. And we are joined once again by Coach Elle. Coach, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I am doing good. So we are here for week 3 of Calling in the One. And the first 2 weeks were, well, kind of eye-opening.
Just kind of.
Well, it's a lot to go through something like this when you're either starting out or in a lot of cases starting over in trying to figure out what happened in the past that is going to make us look differently at what's going to happen in the future. And that's kind of what this whole process is about, right?
Yes, exactly. And, it's supposed to be a 7-week program, but a lot of times, depending on how the client worked on themselves in the past, it can go to 10 to 12 sessions, right? Because we have to go deeper, especially this week 3 is a little bit deeper than any other weeks that we're going to talk about. But this one is like going to the past and look at the wounds. And I just wait for you to ask questions, and I'll be happy to talk about it.
Well, it's funny that you say this is the one that gets deep, because I thought the last one was deep. And let me refresh for people that may have caught the podcast on this one first. We talked in week 1 preparing for love and kind of looking at the patterns in life and identifying, what your feelings are and what you really want. And week 2, completing your past, and that was looking back at, as you say, the baggage, the resentments, and identifying old agreements that maybe we didn't know we had. Did I describe the 2 of those correctly?
Yes, exactly. Because, this journey is opening up your unconscious to be conscious. So it's a journey. And depending on where you are and how you want to go through this journey, I have to go step by step. And I invite my clients to really, when they start, kind of have the intention of opening themselves up to first of all, to themselves, right. And then open up to other people and life. And so we're going to talk about it today.
Okay. So we are now embarking on week 3, titled Transforming Your Love Identity. So
yes.
Let me first ask you, you mentioned that this is going to go deeper than week 2. So yes. Describe how could it be deeper?
So in week 3, we actually look at or talk about or go deeper in what your core beliefs are about yourself, about others, and about life. So it's 3 separate things, but they're all kind of related to each other. And that's how, and it goes to that identity, your identity that it's based on these beliefs that you kind of formed. So that's why it goes deep.
So it's a little bit of building up on what we did previously, where we identified those old agreements, those old things that we've kind of held to, the toxic things that we held on to, but now peeling those back and finding out, okay, what is it that we really truly believe that we want or we expect relationships to be, right?
It's actually understanding yourself.
Okay.
The truth of those faulty perceptions of yourself, others, and life.
Okay.
I can give you an example.
All right.
So you may have a understanding of yourself that, I'm always alone. Nobody wants me, and life is hard. When we go deeper, these things comes up, and then we kind of look at what has happened in the past that made that perception of who you are, and you identify it with that space of I'm alone. And what's your behavior that you have done this past, 20, 30 years or 50 years that kind of shows you that, yes, you're alone.
Does that kind of manifest itself when people say, well, I guess I'm never going to get married, or I guess I won't find anybody, and it's more of a resolution that, the universe is against us?
Yes, exactly. So, or they say, oh, men are all bad, or they don't, or women are this and this. So it's that perception that whatever has happened in the past, that you made that a truth for yourself.
Okay.
And you base your life based on that. So let's say when somebody says, I'm always alone and nobody wants me. So imagine yourself going to, church or any kind of interactive place and realizing that I had a client like that she would never stay to the end of or interact with people after, because that self of, I'm alone, or nobody wants me, or nobody loves me, that was there. The energy, it's in your body. The energy is there that nobody loves me because of that perception, that interaction that you had in the past. I give you example of me. So I realized my grandmother was my main kind of caregiver when I was a kid. And she moved to another country when I was 6 or 7. And I realized, after working on myself, that the main person that I really truly loved, I felt that she left me. So I would get into interactions or relationships that people will leave me, because in my head, my energy was, I'm not lovable, nobody will stay with me, and life is hard. So that became my identity, that I'm not lovable, that nobody loves me.
So, Mike, that's interesting that you would use the experience in childhood as a transference to the way that you would deal with adult relationships.
Yes, because it's all about your childhood interactions. I had a client that his love identity was, I'm bad, nobody wants me, and life is, dangerous or hard. So the first step to that would be to understand what has happened in the childhood. And his biggest story was he had a very hard childhood interaction, but with his father was not pleasant. So we talk about that, and there's an exercise that I do with my clients, and we look at the younger self and the adult self, and we actually talk to that younger self and suit that younger self and bring her or him to today as a person that you are to that self of today. So one of the exercises that I gave him was to, and the first step is actually, the mission is to learn to love yourself first. So when you think that you're bad, or you think that you're not lovable, are you loving yourself? If somebody loves themselves, they wouldn't say that I'm bad, or that I'm not loved. Nobody loves me. So it comes from that core of what's your relationship with yourself first. So the exercise that I gave him was to say, why don't we try this? Every morning that you get up in the morning, you're brushing your teeth or washing your face, look in the mirror and just say, I love you. to yourself. See what comes up. He, for the first few weeks, he could never say that. He had a hard time. He would get emotional. Because it was I'm bad. It was just, how can somebody that thinks that he's bad, that he said, I love you. But eventually, with our work together, it came to the place that he could look into the mirror and just say, I'm glad that you're here. I am beginning to love you. So it's just a step by step. It just depends how has your childhood affected you to that identity that you put together for yourself today.
Right. So I'm thinking of, and I cannot say that this was my childhood, but I know that there are people that will say to themselves now, well, I know I'm difficult to get along with, or I know I'm a handful. And so the right person is out there for me, but they push that out there as, well, yeah, I'm difficult, or I'm picky, or that sort of stuff. Is that in the same vein as a bad perception from childhood?
So I will ask them, why do you think you're difficult? What has happened? What's the interaction that you made that assumption that you're difficult? Let's look at that. Let's see, where did that came from? And the people, I believe that we are here to love and be loved. And everybody has a partner somewhere that they can invite to their life. And it depends how open you are and how available you are. And we work with the clients not just understanding what has happened in the past, but kind of changing and transferring their identity to who they are today.
All right. So now,
go ahead.
So now I just thought about the complete opposite, where somebody says, well, I deserve better, or I'm special. And I know that is something that, I'm not going to say millennials. I think it's just from the time that I grew up that there has been a change in the way that kids are being raised, that they are special and they deserve the best. So that seems to be something that, regardless of their situation, regardless of whether they're good or bad, the fact that they believe that, I deserve the best, that could be a hindrance, right?
You can deserve the best, and you feel that you deserve the best. And it's just that interaction that you have with other people. Everything in life is about relationships. If I think that I'm the best, and I'm interacting with another person that think that I'm the best, or they don't think I'm the best, that's okay. As long as I think that I'm the best and I interact with people very lovingly, I think that's fine.
Oh, okay.
But if you have that kind of, I guess they call it an ego that is up here, then that interaction that you have with other people is not going to be loving.
Okay. Interesting. It's all about the ego, always, right?
Yes.
All right. So as we go into trying to figure out how to transform this identity, you talked about on the website, I see that, you have to identify, false beliefs, which kind of is something we did back in week 2. So how do we go beyond that? What's the next step after that?
Yeah. So there is an exercise that, let's say, I feel that I'm not lovable. So I work usually in this step, we go deep. So we do this kind of exercise, that I invite my client to close their eyes and really go deep inside and see where that I'm not lovable come from. And I mean, they already know because we already talked about it, but how old is that part of you? Is it 5, 6, 2, I don't know, 10 years old? So we kind of interact with that 10-year-old, and we kind of hold him or her in our heart in a way that is love, love is there. And then when we talk about that, or that exercise, then we look at the adult self of today. And I usually ask my clients, so what do you think that adult of today can say to that younger self of 7-year-old or 6-year-old? And I invite them to kind of come from that knowing of who they are today, talk to that younger self. And when we do that, miracles happen, because then they understand today I don't know, 40 or 50 or 30 years old. And I have many qualities, and I can hold the younger self in my arms, hold her hand or his hand, and kind of bring her to today, step by step. So that's the exercise that we do, and it works all the time. And sometimes it happens that when they're out there in the world doing everyday thing, some incident happens, and the younger self kind of gets that, goes to that space of trauma of the past. And this exercise, they can, the book has the exercise in there. So, and I do it with my clients, and they come to this space that they can do it on their own when they're, I don't know, sometimes driving home, or in some place that they can go and be quiet for 5 minutes and talk to their younger self and bring themselves back to today. And sometimes it takes 5 minutes, 20 minutes, or 2 seconds. Because as you practice it and you understand that you're not that 7 years old anymore, and you're today this beautiful young lady that is accomplished, that has a work experience. I mean, there's all the stuff that they do today that comes in their mind, and that identity of that 7-year-old that was wounded and traumatized changes to today identity of that person. I hope I explained it.
No, you did, and you were using your 7-year-old self as, a way to overlay that. But what if somebody is, at an older age, say in the 50s or 60s, and they're trying to do this, but instead of seeing themselves at, say, 7 years or 17, what if they're stuck on something that is, maybe from the 30s? Can you approach it in the same way? Because I don't see, like, if I were doing it, I don't see myself holding my 30-year-old version saying, okay, it's all going to be good now. So is there a different approach when you're stuck on an incident that is, much closer than childhood?
Yes. So, I mean, then it comes down to releasing yourself and others and opening up in new ways. So you still can hold that 30-year-old in your heart and hold his hand and bring him to today that you're 40, and look at the accomplishments that you have done in this 10 years. And step by step, especially after, I had clients that after 2 weeks of interaction, of going through, after 2 weeks, I look at them, they come on my Zoom, and their face is totally different. I mean, they smiling more. They're step by step of this program. It just helps you open up to who you really are today. So it doesn't matter if it's 10 years ago or like 40 years ago. You bring yourself to today. And I help them look at themselves in a way that is positive, because it's not easy to call me and say, you know what, I want to do calling the one or conscious uncoupling with you. That's a first step. And every time that I talk to my clients and they're ready to do it, I congratulate them, because the first step of just, saying that I want to work with you on this program, it's huge.
Now, let me take a minute here just to remind everybody. We started off the show and just got right into it. You actually have a website, Heart to Heart Coaching, where you offer the chance for people to do this one-on-one, creating, healthy relationships. And I just want to make sure that I remember this time to point that website and talk about the services. Now, this is not something that you trained for, went to school for, got your degree in. This is something you did a little bit later. So I know that you mentioned that you had this little memory at 7 years old that kind of helped frame your situation. When was it that you realized that and started to, I guess, do the release for yourself?
Granted, I went to therapy for many years, but this program, and I went through calling the one unconscious uncoupling to be, when I first took a class for a 2-day class that Catherine Woodward Thomas offered, my coach. And I looked at it and I said, oh my God, this is so amazing. It's, this looks at today and who I am today and identify myself with today. And of course, we all have a past, but then it's okay to go beyond that past and kind of invite the today identity of myself to myself. So this is like 5-6 years ago.
Okay.
And I actually went through the program with Catherine, and I got my calling the one and conscious uncoupling. I'm certified on the two to coach people.
All right. And calling in the one, based on the book by Catherine Woodward that you mentioned. I'll have a link in the show notes. It's described as a sacred 49-day journey, but as you mentioned earlier, it could be longer.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, it depends who is. Yeah, it just depends who have worked on themselves in the past and come in and we go deeper, or sometimes we need to go deeper for 10 sessions instead of 7.
Right. All right. So back to what else would happen in week 3. We talked about, naming the false love identity beliefs and realizing, your own self. But you talked about, releasing. Is that something that is able to be done just in this 1 week session, or is this kind of one where it might take 2 to go through that?
Yeah, it just depends. The releasing ceremony can be done in 2 sessions. That's why, I help my clients when we're meeting one-to-one, and they can do it at home. The book has the setup of how to do it. Usually it's easier to do it first with me, and then they can do it at home with releasing some other stuff that they want to release.
All right. So the releasing ceremony, I can't imagine that that's really a ceremony, because it's really just you and them. But so what type of event is that when it happens?
It's basically closing your eyes, imagine yourself in that situation, that whatever you want to release, that interaction that you had. It can be with your ex-boyfriend or girlfriend that you think that has kind of stayed with you, and you want to release that to get to open yourself up to, to be open to bring another person to your life. So that release can be that the conversation that you never had with that person.
Ah, okay.
So we can I invite them to write down whatever they want to say to that person. And some people like to write it down. Some people like to just verbalize it. So both can be done. It doesn't mean that you have to call the person and tell them this stuff. No, this is just release ceremony for yourself. So you release those negative thoughts, negative, you did this, you did that, it made me feel this way, all that stuff that you never kind of verbalized or never wrote it down. That's what the ceremony is all about.
Could that be something where you mentioned writing it down, where you write out all the things that you believe are, keeping you stuck in a moment or something, and a lot of people will either burn the piece of paper or, rip it up and toss it out the window or something. Is that kind of what that ceremony would be?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So you can rip it out, put it in the shredder, burn it, and just be done with it. You may have to do it twice or 3 times, when as many times as you think that you need to do that. And a lot of times it's easier to be in the session and do it with me, because this is how I work with my clients. As before I even start the conversation, before they're on Zoom, I meditate. I open a container for me to hold on to my clients, hold their hands, be of service to this 60 minutes, 90 minutes that I'm with them. And it's very energetic, and it always works, because at the end of each interaction, each session, I ask my clients, so how do you feel now? What did you get from this? And we talk about it. And many times they say, I felt that I'm held. I felt, that you're totally listening to me. You're hearing me. And that's my intention, to be of service and to be really there for my clients, so they feel heard and seen. So that's part of the exercise, to be heard and seen.
Okay. So I just had another question pop into my head.
Sure.
Is this a program that couples can do together, even if they are, 20 years married and maybe they just want to reinforce it, build it up, or if they do think that, hey, things are starting to take a turn, how do we fix it? Is this something that can be done together, or does it need to be done individually?
Yes. So we recommend that to do these sessions separately. So usually I will recommend another colleague of mine, and we both do the program, each with the individual separately.
Do you
and they can, in the book it has so you can actually, it's under conscious uncoupling, it's uncoupling. So they can talk about it afterwards, because they go through the same exercises, they come back, they talk to me or to the other coach, and when they're sitting down, they can talk about it and talk about their experience, talk about the emotions that came up. That opens up a new way of communicating deeper.
So that sounds okay, because I was thinking that the release ceremony would be the two coming back together if they were to go through it separately, which sounds like that's what but they do the release ceremony together. That seems like that would be a pretty cool thing, but maybe not.
I have not done it together, but that's always the first time.
Okay. All right. So week 3, transforming your love identity. I know we jumped around a bit. Did we hit all the key points that would happen during week 3?
So one thing that I wanted to share also is I help clients to understand that story of that 7-year-old has been owning you for, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years sometimes. We kind of look at it in a way that now you own your story, not that incident that happened when you were 6 or 7 or 10. So this will kind of people become more conscious and say, okay, you know what? That was then and this is now. Mm-hmm. So that really opens up to be more conscious about their behavior, where they are, who they are today versus the past.
Right. Good stuff. Good stuff. Now you mentioned the conscious uncoupling. Now that's a separate program that could be done, also a part of your program. So I want to make sure I mention again, hearttoheartcoaching.org. I'll have a link in the show notes. So it's really hard to dig deep into a podcast here, without asking, super deep personal questions, which you haven't asked me. So I've been able to get away with it. but for people that are looking at, exploring the feelings and transforming their relationships to make them, happy and healthy, I would recommend heading over to hearttoheartcoaching.org and giving Coach Elle a discovery session.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. The other part of it that I guess we need to talk a little bit is self-care. Okay. So part of loving yourself is self-care. I had a client that haven't bought anything for herself for many years. And throughout our session, part of her self-care was that she will go buy some new clothes, some new makeup. And the other session that she came on, it was like fully made up, new clothes. So it just sometimes that's very important, or cooking for yourself, or going for a walk, or whatever that you like to do and you haven't done as self-care, a part of loving yourself.
So that would be kind of after the release ceremony or before, where you would, kind of learn to relate to yourself in a different way?
Before.
Before? Okay. All right.
I mean, self-care can be any time, but yes, usually we go through it before.
All right. What do you recommend for men? Because we don't like to do that shopping thing where we just go buy stuff. And
you can play golf. You can, watch sports on TV, or go to a game, or, whatever makes you happy. That's a self-care for you.
All right. As long as I can do it without judgment, that'll figure that out.
Yeah, that's your time.
That's my time.
With your time, with your friends, with yourself, however you like to spend it.
All right. Well, Coach Elle, we've just finished chatting about week 3, transforming your love identity. Folks, we're going to be back with week 4, entitled Setting Your Course. So we'll dig into that. But in the meantime, you can head over to hearttoheartcoaching.org and check out the previous weeks if you've missed them. Go back to unhealthypodcast.com and listen to the previous episodes. And then book a time here to come back and catch us in your favorite podcatcher for week 4. All right, Coach. I appreciate that. Thank you very much for your time, and we'll chat again soon.
Yes. Thank you so much, Marv. I'm really happy that we're doing these episodes together.
I am too.
I appreciate it.
I am too. I think the wife is happy too. All right, folks. Thank you for...
You have to tell us about your wife next time, Elizabeth, and why she's happy.
Okay. That's a sign to end the episode here. So. All right. I'll check with her and see I'll check with her and see what I'm allowed to talk about, and we'll do that. So.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, folks. I know you'll be looking forward to that, but join us again when we come back on the Unhealthy Podcast. And remember, folks, we are talking about health in a different way, not just about health, food, fitness, all of that stuff, but we're talking about being healthy in all areas of your life, fixing what's unhealthy and making them healthy. So we will be back soon. On behalf of Coach Elle, thank you for listening. And remember to live healthy and be happy.